This is the defining moment. It is the most important decision we have made as an organization. Not only did we hire a coach and president of basketball, we are resetting the culture of the franchise. I am convinced, and I'm so confident that this is going to work. We both have the passion for it. I know he's going to be as prepared as ever when it comes to any decisions we're making, whether it's on the floor or front office decisions. I'm sleeping better. I told you guys before, I do lose sleep at night worrying about this community and making sure it delivers for you guys. And I can tell you I'm sleeping better, having Stan.
Van Gundy.
And welcome into Views from the Sideline. It is May 8th, 2018, and guess what, guys?
I am sleeping good.
Joey's sleeping good. Malik's sleeping good. Everyone here is getting ready to roll on this new Pistons regime. I'm Chris Pappas. My co-host Joey Tysick is here, and recurring guest Malik Hill. You
Finally
can hear him.
back.
He's back. 88.3 WXOU The Grizz. Recent graduate of Oakland University. Welcome. Congrats.
I'm so happy to be back. It's a great time, the NBA playoffs. Tom Gorse is getting sleep now, guys. Can you believe that?
Gorse is getting
the
sleep
Pistons are
now.
going to get turned around. He's getting sleep.
Whoa.
He's confident.
The Pistons are going to get turned around. Let's hold their horses for a little
Hey,
bit.
Tom Gorse is getting sleep. He's confident. Well,
I guess.
we have to believe.
Just because he's getting sleep doesn't mean he's going to make the right decisions.
You are absolutely right.
Well, on today's show, just to break it down for the people, we're going to spend as much time as possible on this Stan Van Gundy Pistons parting ways officially. We're going to break down all the ins and outs of this decision, kind of the interesting nuggets behind the scene, our opinions on who we think should be the president and who should be the coach. And if we have time, we'll get into the current NBA landscape. Before we get going, a little breaking news into the show, and now that it's relevant to the Pistons since they have no head coach. James Borrega, Spurs assistant, has been hired by Charlotte. He will be the head coach there, so that's another name off the list because Gorse had to take 3 weeks to make this decision. But yeah, let's just jump right into it. I want to get your initial opinion. Regardless, okay, yeah, it took 3 weeks. Was this the right move? Just bottom line, is this the right move for the Pistons to part ways completely with Stan Van Gundy? I'll hit you first, Joe.
Yes. We've been saying it for a while. I think it's just time. I can't blame everything on Stan, although I want to.
I can.
But there's just a lot of things that just didn't work out. I liked the move when we first got him. It seemed like a great idea. He seemed like he was going to fit the mold for the team that the Pistons were trying to build. They didn't really go through with that build. Like, they were talking about rebuilding the old Magic with Dwight Howard being the centerpiece and putting three-point shooters around him. I don't think the Pistons did nearly as good of a job building three-point shooters around him. They did kind of a wishy-washy kind of thing, but it just didn't work, and I didn't think that the Pistons needed to go through another year. I know a lot of people were saying, oh, why didn't he just finish out his contract? Because we need change immediately. We need to start getting a move on this whole rebuild thing because it's going to happen, and it's going to be a long and lengthy process, so we might as well get a year head start on it.
Yeah, and here's the thing, too. You don't want a coach that – you don't want him thinking about if he's going to be back next year. You don't want that lame duck year on your contract. No coach wants to play under that. And I will say this. Before Stan got here, the coaching here was abysmal. It was treacherous. So I will say Stan did a heck of a job when it comes to – he did change the course of the franchise when it comes to actually being respectable. There were walkouts on coaches like John Custer, the Tracy McGrady, Rip Hamilton-led walkout, the boycott. Then there was Mo Cheeks fired 20 games into the year. John Lawyer finished out that season, and I believe they won 2 games to finish out that season. There was a lot of bad basketball. I like to refer that time period as the sad boy era.
That's not bad.
It's very relevant. And I want to keep moving forward here. Malik, what is your opinion on this? Was this the right move?
First, I have to say, you brought up the Charlotte Hornets thing. The Spurs are losing all their assistants.
Yeah, Spurs getting cleaned out real
Greg has to
fast.
look for new assistants. But I think it was the completely correct idea.
You didn't want to keep him in as a coach?
No, he had to go for – well, at first I wanted to keep him as a coach and just get rid of the president title. Yeah. But I think it was time for him to go. His free agent choices, his just being stuck in the middle for years. You get to the playoffs once. I was all in on Stan Van Gundy the year they made it to the playoffs. They finished the season strong. Reggie Jackson looked like a really good point guard. Everything was coming together.
And the injuries happened.
And then injuries happen. You don't bring in the right players to help. And then at the start of the season, it looks like he has it together again. And then you give away that once again. So it seems like he didn't know exactly what he wanted to do. People weren't coming to games in the new arena. So he just ditched what was working and went with Blake Griffin. I mean,
I will say this.
It seems like he didn't have it under control. He wasn't sure what he wanted to do.
When it comes to the Blake Griffin stuff, that was not, to me, that wasn't a Stan Van led move. That was a Goris led move.
Right.
To fill in seats at the new arena. I think because if you're a smart owner, if you know what you're doing, if you know what your franchise is going, if there's any question that you might move on from Stan Van Gundy, you don't make that move. You don't make that level of a blockbuster deal and then just alter your franchise in the summer. You don't do that.
Right. That's like the biggest problem with this whole thing is that now they've thrown away everything to try to make that last late season push to maybe do something. And they didn't do it. And now they get rid of Stan Van and we're just stuck. And whoever gets this job is stuck. And it is going to be very hard to dig themselves out of this.
Exactly. I understand that if Tom Gores wanted to go get a big name, that Stan Van may have had to do it. But you're the coach and the president. You have say in what you want this
Don't
team
get me
to
wrong.
be.
No. I mean, Stan wanted the move, but I'm not going to say that Stan forced Goris' hands. It wasn't just SVG. This was a joint decision. This wasn't just Stan making a Hail Mary. Goris was like, heck yeah, we can get Blake Griffin because Goris just wants a star, someone to fill seats in this arena.
I'm sorry. If your team is a second seed, I don't care if the attendance is low. It's a new arena. It's going to start out like that.
Yeah.
Your team was a second seed. They were 14-6 to start the season, something like that.
If you're
playing
winning,
good basketball, the fans will come later in the season.
Exactly.
Complete impatience on all fronts.
Completely agree with you because we saw that in the start of this. When Stan was here, the 14-15 season, his first season as head coach, fans weren't really showing in games. They started 5-23, attendance was low. Then you had Brandon Jennings, Joey's guy, go on that 7-game win streak.
The hope of Detroit.
He got
Hope of Detroit.
He got some people back watching those Pistons.
I remember I went to a game when they were going for their 8th straight win. They were playing in Atlanta. That crowd it felt like a playoff atmosphere. It really did.
And that's how Detroit can be.
That's what it can be, but the fans are smart enough to know not to pay their hard-earned money for utter crap.
Exactly.
And, that's what they were showing. Yeah, they started 14-6. Fans started to creep in there. Then Reggie goes down. Then you go 5-20 or whatever the stretch was in the second half of the season. And attendance just dipped completely. And that's why you bring in Blake Griffin to start trying to fill your seats more, and it just didn't work out.
I went to a game at the Palace where the fans were starting to lose their love for the Pistons, and it was a pretty depressing atmosphere, to be honest. They lost to the Knicks, and they booed Josh Smith every time.
I may have been at that game.
It was bad.
No one liked really Josh Smith. It was that first year they were like, oh, yeah, we're cool with him, but when it was he
wasn't playing hard. He was missing easy late. It was bad.
And he'll be in our spirits until 2020.
Yeah, Josh Smith is a part of this franchise.
The new Ben
until
Gordon.
2020.
Still being paid.
New Ben Gordon.
He's bypassed Ben Gordon. At least Gordon's not on our books.
True.
But yeah, I want to give a little wrap up of Stan and his career as the Pistons head coach and president. He coached here for 4 years. He is number 3 on the list of all-time wins in Pistons history as a head coach. Number 3. And he finished 24 games under 500.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
His finishing record was 152 and 176. He sits behind Flip Saunders at 2 and then Chuck Daly at 1. And sandwiched between that is Ray Scott at 4. Yeah.
But that's kind of the nature of the league, too. Like, you don't hold on to coaches very long unless you're winning all the time. And Stan was put in a position to where you're operating the team as president and coach. So you're going to have a longer contract. They're going to want to try to stick with you a little bit longer, I think. So I think that's kind of where he got most of that from.
You shoved out a lot of money, too. 5 years, $35 million to fire him after. Let's just say you don't fire a guy after 2 seasons when you dish out that much money. And Stan has the name, too.
Right.
He took a team to the finals that started from scratch. He had the background.
Right.
So they weren't going to do anything like that. I want to jump into we all agree that this was the right decision for the Pistons. What are some options here as a front office? Do you think they go back to hiring a guy with that dual role, or are they going to
No.
split this up?
No.
You think for sure
that'll probably be the worst idea.
They have to
Dual
split it
role.
up. I think
You never know with Tommy G, though.
You know, I think we talked about it like a while back, and Malik brought up the point of Doc Rivers. Like, that hasn't worked out. Like, it seems that most of the
Doc's
time,
probably going to sign. It sounds like he's signing an extension too.
but it seems like most of the time when a team tries to make a president and head coach, and they go out and do like these weird like trading for head coach kind of position things.
Yeah.
This is the NBA.
Those
You
almost
you
seem
have
like
one
they-
job.
Yeah, those almost
do
seem
it
like they
well.
never work out. And you always kind of want to believe it because of the pedigree of some of these guys, but I think it's just too hard to focus on both things. Like, you're trying to get player development, but you're also trying to develop the team that you have right there in front of you. So it's really not.
That's the difficult part.
I don't think it's ideal for them,
Yeah.
especially now where they're at. I think they need multiple pieces, but they don't want to get too many pieces. I know I was listening to 97.1 The Ticket, and Valeni was talking about how if you have too many people involved, then you get so many differing opinions that it's hard to do one thing. But you also don't want one person to do everything. So
Yeah.
you want like a weird mix
You want
of
that middle
just
ground.
enough people to be overseeing this team. So I think president and coach definitely, though, should be separated.
Why did this take 3 weeks?
I don't know. That's the biggest problem with this whole thing, because we missed out on the David Fizdale, and we talked about it
That's
in
huge. That was
length before. We felt like he was the
was the
best fit for this Detroit team. He's a players coach.
He's
Players,
a hard-nosed guy.
Players love to coach for him. He would be perfect for the Detroit culture of like hard-nosed basketball and defense and stuff. And for some reason, Tom Gores and Stan Van Gundy are on vacation doing whatever meetings for 3 weeks to decide, oh yeah, we're not going to have you back.
And here's the interesting thing to me, too. About a week ago, Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN came out with a post saying Gorse is open with Stan coming back to being the head coach. But Stan was resilient with altering the front office. Now that doesn't seem to be the case. Stan talked to, I believe it was the Detroit News, or the Detroit Free Press, Vince Ellis, and said he was willing to give up his president role just to coach this team. And Gorse decided no. That's what's interesting to me. If Gorse already had this decision made up, why are we waiting 3 weeks
right.
to get to this point?
Right, because right there is a Stan making somewhat of a counteroffer, saying, "Oh, I'll give up my
That's what I'm
presidency,
saying. That's
and
what
I will be the coach." And Gores says no. Exactly. Like he knows then in his head that he's pretty sure he doesn't want Stan Van Gundy back.
Yeah.
But it takes him 3 weeks to make that decision.
And you lose
And
out on.
It turns out just like the trade deadline, almost the opposite. Like in the trade deadline, the Pistons tried to go too early. They missed out on a lot of teams giving away picks and stuff late in the draft or in the trade deadline. This time, they wait too long. Coaching moves are already starting to be made as soon as teams are headed for the playoffs. All the other teams are like, do we need to change front office? Do we need to change coaches? The Pistons are like, we're going to wait 3 weeks to decide on Stan Van Gundy's future, and then we're going to miss out on probably the best coach out there.
And he goes to a big market and he's going to be coaching a star in Kristaps Porzingis.
And he's in just as tough of a situation as it would be to come to Detroit and coach.
Yeah.
Because you're in a higher spotlight.
And Pistons are probably going to miss out on a couple more of these top coaches as well, because first they're going to have to address hiring a president and a GM. That's your first thing you address, so that GM can kind of have his input on how he wants this team to be coached.
Right.
And the president's not going to be hired within the next couple days. I mean, that's going to probably be at least a week to go through interviews, and then another week for the president to go through interviews with coaches. So we're 2 weeks down the line. The NBA draft combine is in a week, 7 days.
It's a week away.
And I know that's not the biggest deal. The Pistons only have the 42nd pick, so it's not a crazy big deal. But in the grand scheme of things,
at this point, it is a big deal though, because they don't have anything, so they need to make right on their draft picks. So they need to get people in here right now to start looking at these players that are late, early second round, so they can try to make a somewhat good draft pick to have players on their team that will work.
Time to make some trades.
But it's difficult to make.
I don't even know
mean,
if trades are going to work.
Well, anybody can be traded in the NBA. I mean, Joe Johnson got traded. Blake Griffin got traded. Joe Johnson got traded. Monster deals. So the Pistons can move stuff around. If they really wanted to, if Goris gives the new president, GM, whoever it is, the option to blow this thing up, which I don't think he will. I think Goris is going to hire somebody with the idea that that guy is going to try to do the same thing that Stan would have done with the stars, keep the stars and try to build around that team. And I think that's a terrible idea.
You
Yeah.
can't blow it up with Blake on the team. You brought
That's what
in
I'm
Blake
saying.
for a reason.
Well, Goris isn't going to let his new GM, whether they're smart enough to see, yeah, we need to blow this thing up and start from scratch. Goris would be like, no, I'm not hiring then if you want to do that. And it's disappointing, very disappointing. Another thing Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN reported when the whole Stan Van Gundy stuff came out, Brent Barry is said to have drawn interest from the Pistons in a role in the front office. It wouldn't be for the president or the GM, but a role within the new revamped front office.
And that's a lot of the talk of the town is that they're looking at a lot of supposed Arn Tellem former clients.
Yeah.
So you got your Brent Barry, BJ Armstrong, people like that have worked with him before. So
And if the people don't know, Arn Tellem is the head of the business operations for the Pistons. He's on the business side, but he will start to help. He will kind of be the head of this search for a new president.
right. So a lot of the talk is that Tellem is going to be heavily involved in this new front office and where it starts or begins. So that'll be interesting to see how that will work out. I wouldn't mind Brent Barry. He's a really, I mean, we've only seen him on the analyst desk and stuff, but he's a very good, smart basketball player. He's won a dunk contest. I mean,
and
That's
it's not,
something.
and it's
something.
not
that's a
like
qualification, right?
Exactly.
it's not like he's gonna be leading this too. He's just
Right,
it's about getting bright-minded guys,
right.
young guys before anybody gets their hands on them. Get into your front office and have the ability, if you want to promote them down the line.
And I like the new wave of front office where you try to get guys that have been in the league and know how the league works and meshes and players work with the league, so that when you bring in players, they see, oh, our front office has Brent Barry, has these kind of guys
Yeah.
that they're familiar with.
And they know they can go up there and talk to the guy,
Right.
and felt like they're heard and not just
You're talking
money.
to a business guy.
Yeah. And then John Barry, he was talking to 97 on the ticket. John Barry is the brother of Brent Barry, and they said they saw the tweet happen by Woj, and they were caught off guard because they didn't hear anything yet. But it is said that Brent is interested in joining the Pistons revamped from front office. I think that'll be a move down the line. That'll be
Right.
after the season's finished, because Brent's got his TNT duties until the NBA Finals start. He might even do some ABC stuff for NBA Finals. So we won't hear if Brent's in the Pistons front office probably until June. But I think it's a good move. Like you said, I echo your opinion completely. One thing I want to talk about, and one thing I don't echo at all, and I'm rather frightened that this isn't actually a possibility. The TNT crew, Kenny, Ernie,
Oh, yeah.
Shaq, Chuck,
I was going to bring that up too.
they touched on it a little bit between games, the
Mhm.
Stan Van Gundy parting ways with the Pistons. All three of them want Isaiah Thomas to be the president of basketball operations. No. Tommy G, if there's some way you're listening to this broadcast, do not hire Isaiah Thomas. Do not.
I mean, I see the idea there.
Uh,
But we
We all see the idea.
But we all know that there's a better choice for that same exact idea.
But I have a question on that. Is it a possibility?
It is a
that
possibility.
he has learned from his let's not forget this is the guy that drafted Tracy McGrady in Toronto because he was the only person that saw what Tracy could be. He's made a lot of mistakes. the whole Knicks situation, we know how that went down.
Yeah.
But Isaiah Thomas is a Hall of Fame player that knows basketball. He's not going to be the head coach because I think that's where he failed the most in his career, honestly.
Right. I agree.
Fair.
I think there's a possibility he's learned from everything that has happened to him in the NBA.
Yeah.
He went back down to college.
That's why I'm not on
Yeah.
the same level as Chris, but I agree. I don't know if he's my favorite choice. He's not my top choice, that's for sure.
I think he's been humbled,
But
which is a good.
I
which is
wouldn't
the reason why
mind.
he
I
could be
wouldn't
good.
mind it because
There's so many better options out there than Isaiah Thomas, who's had issues in the past. If you're trying to right this ship, if you're Tom Goris, if Goris hires Isaiah Thomas, to me, it's a money grab. Say, oh, look, I brought home one of our guys.
But I think that's. I mean,
There's
That's
better
a thing.
guys in the Pistons' history to bring in than
Right.
Isaiah Thomas.
well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think he wouldn't be my top choice, obviously. But
He'd be
I
bottom
get the
five.
notion, and it would.
Yeah, I get the notion too. Tommy G trying to make a quick buck.
But that would mean that they would have to fail on my boy Chauncey Billups because I still think he
If
is
they don't hire
the
Chauncey,
best
I
fit.
think Chauncey is one of the brightest minds, and whoever hires Chauncey Billups, whether it's assistant GM or GM, whatever it may be, is going to get a steal. He reminds me so much of a young Joe Dumars going into that role because everybody forgets about Joe D, but he built that
Yes, he
04
did.
Pistons team. He
Right.
made a lot of savvy moves, hit on a lot of draft picks.
It
Joe
wasn't until
Dumars
He
is
later.
drafted Tayshaun Prince.
Joe
Yeah.
Dumars
He
is one of the
drafted Tayshaun
best
Prince.
drafting present GMs in NBA history.
And people give-
forget about that because of the Darko pick.
Right. Which, in all honesty, who knows if the Pistons win a championship if they didn't draft Darko?
It's possible.
Because then they
Because
would have
of
had to play
because
Carmelo
of the
or
makeup
Chris
of that
Paul, yeah.
team. And like I always bring back, you might never get Rasheed Wallace because you might be good enough of a team with Carmelo or something and say, oh,
Let's not
we're
push
we're
these
good.
assets
We
out.
don't need to make any moves.
Exactly.
Where that Pistons team before was just under the cuff, and they're like, we got to get somebody that's going to be gritty and grimy with this team. And they got Rasheed Wallace, who definitely was a big part in that championship run.
I mean, here's just a couple players off the top of my head that were steals for the Joe Dumars era. Chris Middleton, Joe Dumars drafted.
got rid
Ryan
of.
Anderson. He drafted
He
him
drafted
too.
Ryan Anderson. Yeah, he
Left,
traded him,
Yeah.
but he did draft a guy. He saw something in him. Amir Johnson was a late pick. He turned into he's been in the NBA for 12 years. That's a successful pick. Who's the guy?
I think Rodney
Jason
Stuckey could have
Maxfield.
been something.
Rodney
but he ended
Stuckey,
up
I
being a
think,
bust.
yes. I think Rodney Stuckey, if he's stuck behind Chauncey Billups and wasn't thrusted into a lead guard role early, I think he could have been a stud.
I think
I
Joe
really do.
Dumars saw Damian Lillard when he saw Rodney Stuckey.
And the thing about Chauncey Billups is his time in the league was so tough in the first few years. Like nobody believed in him, and he had to prove himself over and over and over. And he was a journeyman throughout his early career. So I think he's good at picking out players that have potential. I think he knows what those kind of players look like because that's how he was. That's what kind of player he was. So I think with the Pistons having rough draft spots and stuff like that, I think he might be able to find these diamonds in the rough that other teams are starting to see. Like the Celtics are looking amazing right now, and Brad Stevens is looking really good.
Doing all this without Kyrie and Gordon Hayward.
Right. So you want to be able to do that. Or like I think TNT brought up the Raptors, where they were saying how the Raptors have been good for a while.
They've improved.
They've
every
been
year.
having what you would call bad draft picks, but their
I
draft
don't
picks.
think they have.
No,
OG
no.
Anunoby was.
No. That's what I'm saying. Like the number, like where they're slotted
yeah.
in the draft.
Oh, yeah.
They-
yeah.
they've never been
getting
in the
talent
top five.
from
Getting
what they're
talent
at.
from their slot. Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. So the Pistons need that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I honestly think I don't think it's going to happen because it's going to be too. They've already started this process too late, but I think they need to trade into this first round. I think that'd be a huge step. Do you think Stanley? Do you think Stanley Johnson can fetch you a first round pick? I think he could fetch you a 20 to 30 first round pick, and I would do that.
Maybe.
So I think somebody would take a chance.
I think
on
San
Stanley.
Antonio would take a chance on him. San Antonio has already
That's exactly what I was thinking.
expressed interest in Stanley Johnson. He kind of fits that mold. I think he'd be perfect under Pop. Someone that actually knows how to utilize that player.
Especially if they get rid of Kawhi.
I got a little prediction that comes to that. I'm just gonna put it out there. Kawhi's gonna be a Celtic next year. Kawhi Leonard will be a Boston Celtic
Why?
by the start of next year.
All those small forwards. You get
Yeah,
another one.
think about this. They're gonna trade. They can't pay Terry Rozier. I think they're
I
gonna
know
package.
I know
they're gonna
Terry's
package
gone.
Terry, either Jason Tatum or Jalen Brown.
You can't get rid of those two.
Kawhi Leonard's a top 3 player in the
You
NBA.
can't get rid of those.
He
two.
is a top. You already have Gordon Hayward though. You
You-
have Gordon Hayward.
Do you know how bright the future looks right now?
Yes, but do you know how
Kawhi is
you
getting
know
rid of the
they
future.
they can contend for a championship and contend with the Golden State Warriors in my opinion. If you have Kyrie, Kawhi Leonard, Gordon Hayward, Al Horford, and
those
then
guys
their
are-
bench.
And those guys are technically still young.
And Brad Stevens is the best coach in the NBA right now. I think they go all in this summer, package some of their talent, and they have a plethora of first round picks. Throw in a couple picks. I'm just gonna say Rozier, Jason Tatum, and a couple picks for Kawhi Leonard this summer.
I think giving away Jason Tatum is a.
I
don't think that's
I'm
a
not.
good-
I'm just throwing it out there.
I
It
don't
could be
think I
Jalen
don't
Brown.
Think I don't think Danny Ainge.
All right, let's bring it back from these
Actually,
off-season
I'm just
moves.
saying.
yeah.
I'm just saying. I just wanted to touch on that because that's my bold off-season prediction. Kawhi Leonard, a Boston Celtic.
Okay, well.
All right, I digress.
we got some
I
time before that
digress.
comes
I
out.
digress. Let's jump into each of our dream scenarios. So, I'm gonna get your opinion. I want who you want for the position. President and GM is going to be one position, and then head coach is the next. Joey, I want to start with you.
Chauncey.
Okay, that's one. Who is your head coach? In your dream scenario, who is your president and GM, and who's your head coach? Chauncey is one.
Head coach would have to be Mark Jackson. And I think the only way that you get him in for an interview, or at least like interested, is if you get Chauncey in.
No, I think Mark would be
to that front
interested
office.
no matter what. I think Mark has that itch to get back coaching.
Maybe. But I think there are other coaching jobs that could be on the table that he might rather have.
I think Milwaukee is one, but
Right.
I think Budenholzer and the Bucks are showing a lot of mutual interest there, so that could be.
But at the same time, like if the Bucks interview Mark Jackson and Mark Jackson's interviewed in the Bucks, and the Bucks and Mark Jackson are agreeing themselves too, and they see themselves maybe together, who do you think the Bucks are going to take, Mark Jackson or Mike Budenholzer?
Mike Budenholzer.
Honestly, I think Budenholzer. I think they would take Mike Budenholzer.
You think
Why?
they would take Mark Jackson?
I think so.
Budenholzer, okay, he's got the resume. He was one of the brightest minds coming from the San Antonio Spurs. He got hired by the Hawks. I think it was his first year coaching. He won Coach of the Year with the 4 All-Star Hawks, which Kyle Korver shouldn't have been an All-Star that year. Then the Atlanta Hawks, they break apart. He brings them back to the second round of the playoffs the next year, and then they officially split them up, and then they have their issues. They sucked this year, but
But he was also given a very good team. at the
yeah,
time.
and he made it to the Eastern Conference Finals with
Exactly.
that 60-win team.
But
And then he took the next team to the second round and lost without Al Horford and without Jeff Teague.
the team is still good, though.
And they brought it to the second round.
He was gifted a very good team, so I don't know how much the coaching has to do with that.
You're going to tell me Milwaukee's not a good team? Eric Bledsoe, Jabari Parker, Giannis Antetokounmpo?
They are a good team.
Okay, and you don't think Mike Budenholzer is the right coach for that? You think it's Mark Jackson?
I'm just saying, when you're given a good team, it doesn't show off as much of your coaching
But
prowess
Budenholzer would
necessarily.
be gifted a good team right now.
I know.
Mark Jackson was gifted a good team. He was
Right.
in Golden State.
And he did just as good, so why is he
What?
not the
They,
same?
they weren't the Warriors yet.
They were not the
Mark
Warriors
Jackson
yet.
molded
He got,
them into the Warriors.
he got let go, and that's when they took off.
But I don't think it was his fault.
But he was gifted. Mark Jackson, in your scenario here, was gifted the best roster or the best start of a roster in the NBA, and he didn't make it past the second round. Mike Budenholzer was gifted the Atlanta Hawks. Yeah, they were a solid team. He got them to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Those Warriors, they weren't what they became a few years later yet. They weren't. That year, they played the Nuggets in the playoffs. Young Steph coming off of injuries. Draymond hadn't put on muscle yet. Like, come on.
All right, fair enough. All right, so you got Mark Jackson. Sorry, I didn't mean to attack you there.
I'm
Joe.
just saying,
I didn't mean to attack you.
I feel like
I have
Mark
a
Jackson
passion
has
for
more
it.
of the resume.
I have a passion for this. Sorry, I didn't mean to attack you.
I didn't
there.
realize you were such a
I know.
Budenholzer guy.
I'm a big Budenholzer guy. I'll let Malik go second here. Who's your president GM, and then who's your head coach in your dream situation?
I would have to go same. Chauncey is president, GM, and then Mark Jackson, either Mark Jackson or Jerry Stackhouse, because I think
I'm a big
Oh, yeah.
Jerry
Stackhouse
guy.
I
would
like
be a
Jack.
good choice. But
I always forget
I
about
think
Stackhouse.
just the match with the city for Mark Jackson, him in Detroit, I think that fits like a glove. He's a tough New York, gritty New York point guard. He wasn't the most talented guy. He just went out there and flashed his IQ and got it done. Him in Detroit, everybody would fit with him. The team would love him. He's also a player's coach. His players love him. The
That's how
city
I
would love him.
That's how I feel too.
No.
If it was Chauncey and Jerry,
Yeah.
two old school Pistons that everybody loves.
I think Jerry's going to be a fantastic coach.
so.
Now, Mark's match with the roster is what I'm
Right.
not sure. But
Yeah.
like you said, I'm not sure anybody would match with this roster.
Yeah, I think no matter
So,
what, they're gonna have a hard
Yeah,
time.
it
especially
would
at
be
the
tough,
start.
but I think Mark Jackson will be up for it. He wouldn't be afraid. He'd
Mhm.
take it on.
I wouldn't mind Mark Jackson. I think he would be a solid coach. I do. But my dream scenario, I have a backup for each spot because I honestly don't think Gorsuch's going to hire Chauncey Billups, which is sad to me because I think he wants an experienced front office, someone that's ran the numbers, someone that knows how to do the draft.
Which is weird because
He's tried that already. I
Right.
think not getting Chauncey would be
That's
one
what I
of
was
the
gonna
biggest
say.
mistakes they've
I
made.
feel like
in
like
years.
right now is the time that you just it doesn't matter.
I agree. I agree with you.
Like,
but
you
I'm
have-
just reading reports
like right
here.
now, yeah, I know, no. But right now you have the most time
Yeah.
to just deal with somebody that's never been
Yes.
in this position
Get
before.
Chauncey, Brent Berry, two young, high IQ guys that know the game and know
Bring
what
in
they're
a
doing.
staff, teach them how to
Yes.
do the role.
And last year, Chauncey Billups had the Cleveland Cavalier job if he wanted it.
And said
Was it?
no.
Did Chauncey have this idea in the back of his mind? What if Detroit
And he
opens
doesn't
up
want to
next
step
year?
on anybody's toes, so he had to make
And when
sure
that report
somebody
came
was
out, when that Mark Stein report came out a couple months ago, he was insulted, and I thought that looked good on Chauncey, like him being insulted that they would attach his name to that when it's 100% false because he hasn't been contacted at all.
Right.
My dream scenario is, I think this is a clean sweep. Chauncey Billups is my dream president and GM. My dream head coach is Mike Budenholzer, of course. I'm rocking with Mike.
Dream
He's
head
a
coach.
Budenholzer guy.
I'm
He's
a Budenholzer guy. I think he
Alright.
plays that fast tempo. He plays today's NBA offense, and I don't think Mark Jackson does.
Problem is, this Pistons team is definitely not made for that.
But that's the president's job to recreate this roster.
We
Right.
also didn't get a big sample of Mark Jackson. We got a few years in Golden State before they let him go. While they let him go
He
for,
was in Golden State for what, 3-4 years, something like that.
I thought it was only 2.
Maybe I
Two,
can't.
maybe.
I can't. Recall.
I don't remember seeing him there very long.
Yeah, I'll look it up. But my backup for the president job is David Griffin. He was with the Cavaliers before they let him go. He made some savvy moves.
You mean LeBron made some savvy moves?
I think David Griffin would be I can't argue
How
that.
dare you disrespect the man that brought
but-
LeBron back?
You're right. You're right.
I mean,
And
maybe if David Griffin contacts LeBron and says, "Hey, who do you think
Detroit?
should help? Who do you think will help Detroit
He
out?"
brought Mo Williams to Cleveland.
I don't know. He
importance of
wasn't.
this
No,
man.
he wasn't back there. He wasn't there back then. But yeah, I think David Griffin would be. He's an experienced guy. I mean, he fits the idea of what it sounds like Tommy G is looking for. I think Griffin's definitely a guy that they'll interview, and Griffin would be interested in it. And then my backup for head coach is a guy that Malik brought up, Jerry Stackhouse. I think Jerry will be fantastic as well. He's done great things in the G League. By all accounts, the Raptors have been interested in bringing him up into their coaching staff, and the Raptors, they might have an opening. What if is Dwayne Casey someone the Pistons should look at if the Raptors do indeed fire him? Which strong indications say they will.
I think so. I think he's proved himself.
I think he would be a good fit in Detroit.
I think he's in the same situation where their experiment didn't really work out. They had a good team. They made some good runs, and they just can't get over the Cavs. But I think he's still a good coach. I think he would be a great option if, obviously, these other options for the Pistons didn't work out.
Now that I've thought more about it, I think Jerry Stackhouse may be my number one because I think he's the guy that made Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam what they are. If he took this,
He does a very
roster-
good job on developing
Exactly.
players.
If he can take this roster and just build the talent up like he did with that Raptors bench, I mean,
I think
this is the time. Trade
they could
Drummond.
be exactly.
I don't
For
put it
young
past
talent.
him. Honestly, I'm very, very interested to see the direction Tom Gores allows his president to take. I sincerely hope that Tom realizes this team is not going to win you a championship.
It might not get you to the playoffs.
Exactly.
Let's just hire a president and Tom's got to take his hands off of this thing. He doesn't know basketball.
Right.
Take your hands off Tom. Hire a guy that you believe will do a good job, and just let him do it. If he thinks he should blow it up, let him blow it up. Attendance is gonna suck, but you know what? Your attendance is already terrible.
Exactly.
So a few notches down, yeah, it'll look bad for a couple years. But look what Philly's doing. You don't even have to do it to the same extent. Tank for a year.
How
Just
long
do
did it take
1
Philly?
year.
5 years?
3-4 years, but they dealt with a lot of injuries, like
Okay,
the
yeah.
Embiid injury,
Right, they're
Sarge
kinda
didn't come back.
delayed.
I wouldn't say do it to the extent of Philly, but
They've been in the process since
Of-
Michael Carter Williams,
I would be down.
which is like 2012.
Yeah. I would be totally fine with stripping this team of all its assets, accumulating picks and young players, letting your coaching staff develop these players, and start hitting on draft picks. That's what I would love to see this team do. Build it up from scratch. We'll see what happens.
Especially if they get that 2.6% chance of the top three.
2.5.
Oh, it's 2.5.
If it happens, oh man.
It's possible.
Wait, what day are we? May 8th. So we are about a good week. I think it's a week from today. It's a week from tonight.
On ESPN today, they said it's a week.
May
away.
15th. Yep. We will find out. So probably next show we will find out. Maybe
2.5. 2.5.
if it happens, man, it'll be a happy.
Would it be next show?
Yeah. Unless we record.
Yeah,
next
I guess it
Tuesday.
depends on
Yeah,
what days.
it all depends.
I gotta
Fluctuating
make
schedules.
myself a shirt that says 2.5 if they get it.
All right. I think we've touched on all we need to touch on when it comes to this Stan Van Gundy leaving the Detroit Pistons. And we'll touch on more stuff because it looks like the Pistons are going to have a busy offseason now. It
Yep.
definitely does. I think there's going to be I do think there's going to be a good amount of player movement as well, especially with the new regime coming in.
I hope so.
But yeah, we'll see. Let's jump into some NBA playoff talk here.
Haven't talked about the whole second round.
Yeah, but I'm going to talk about the stuff that's important for the people.
Okay.
The Cavs absolutely demolishing Toronto.
LeBron absolutely.
we
demolishing
all
Toronto.
said Joey and I both picked. No, you picked Philly in the finals, but you did pick Toronto over Cleveland, right?
I can't remember.
All right. Well, I'll say it. I picked Toronto in the NBA finals, and I did not see this happening. Just absolute demolition. Especially with how the Cavaliers struggled in the first round against Indiana. I thought that played well into Toronto's hands. Toronto was sitting there and waiting at home. They choke away game one, and they just got clowned the rest of this series.
Yeah, as soon as I saw them lose game one, I knew it was over. It was just too bad of a loss. It's hard to come back from that.
They showed to me, they didn't fight enough in games 2, 3, and 4. There was just, they were defeated.
Their best player in that series was Jonas Valanciunas.
Exactly. He's always the guy. He's tough. He doesn't back down, and he plays consistently.
Which he's a good player, but he shouldn't be the best player on that roster.
I think Jonas is the issue with this team, honestly.
You think so?
Really?
I think they just need to go into a rim-running center. I think Jonas isn't the best defender, and he's very slow when it comes to getting back on defense.
He is.
If you insert a guy he's not the biggest issue.
But against the Cavs, that's not really that big of a problem, honestly, because the Cavs big men aren't that good offensively, where that he has to be a defensive player. So I don't think, at least in this series, I get what you're saying as for a team as a whole, but.
And then I do want to post one more question. I mean, there's not really much to break down this series. LeBron just absolutely destroyed them. Is this the end of the Dwayne Casey, Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan Raptors? I say yes.
Yeah, I think it should be.
I think Lowry's up there in age. DeRozan's starting to get up there in age. I think DeRozan can get you some value. I think they trade DeRozan. I think Lowry stays and Casey is fired.
Yeah, I think they clean house now. It's too long that this team has had potential and they can't get over the hump. They're not good enough. I think I can't remember if it was on First Take or whatnot, but they were talking about how the Raptors they have Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan. They're all stars. They're not those 5-star players. They're like 4-star players. They're not that kind of talent that will take you to an NBA championship and willingly play their heart out every game.
I picked Toronto in this one because, to me, they were deeper than any year before.
Right, and that's why I thought Toronto looked pretty good too.
And it seemed like in that first round, the Lowry DeRozan kind of playoff bugs wore off. They seemed to play well in that first round. It's just I feel like it's a mental thing. They see LeBron and they can't perform up to what they're supposed to. And if you couldn't beat this level of a Cavalier team and how good you were in the regular season, 59 wins, best season in franchise history, blow it up.
Especially in game one when Kevin Love struggled heavily.
Yeah.
Like, you know that he's not going to be like that the whole series.
Yeah, he woke up
so
for the rest of the series, too.
If you already know that you're losing game one with Kevin Love not doing anything, you're in trouble.
Malik, do you think they blow up the Raptors? You think it's the end of the Toronto Raptors as we know it?
I definitely think it's time to completely blow it up.
Yeah.
I mean, this is very drastic, but I think it may even be time for move the franchise.
Move the franchise?
This is the best team.
Holy smokes.
This is the best team you've had in your franchise history. This is it. No Vince Carter team. No Chris Bosh team. Those were your superstars.
That's because they got rid of those guys.
This is the best team, best coach, combination of everything you've had in your franchise history. And you still get swept by a good, not great LeBron James team.
They are still a short-lived franchise.
They can't get it done.
What does moving the franchise do, though? Yeah. Toronto is such a good market, though. They make so much money in that city. That's sellout after sellout. I understand your opinion. I know where you're coming from.
I understand it's very drastic.
Yeah.
But
you know what?
You have to do something. It's something about the Toronto Raptors.
I have to respect Malik's opinion. It doesn't matter what he's saying because Donovan Mitchell.
But the problem is the Raptors are my favorite team of all time. Not
what?
Not like okay.
What?
Like certain players in uniforms.
Like mascot, like just the mascot of the Raptors and everything. Obviously the Pistons are my favorite team, but like the looks and I don't know. Like the old Raptor jerseys are my favorite jerseys of all time.
So wait. So Toronto is not your favorite team of all time? Though.
No, they're like
Okay, you saved yourself some.
like they're like my favorite sports look of a team, like of
Okay,
any
all right,
team
all right.
in any sport.
All right.
Because I was a dinosaur kid growing up.
All right. Fair enough.
And
Fair
like,
enough.
I think I need to say something about Cleveland before we move on.
Yeah, let's do it.
I need to give credit to Tyronn Lue because I never do. I don't think he's that great of a coach.
Yeah, because it's LeBron
yeah,
coaching.
he doesn't have to coach.
He
For the
doesn't seriously
past,
looks
how long
nice.
has Kevin Love been in Cleveland? 3 years.
Yeah, 3.
They've resorted him to
Wait,
being
no. Has it been 4?
4 years.
Yeah, it's 4 because
I think it's 4. He's been there every finals.
Okay, 4 years. They've resorted Kevin
Yeah.
Love to being a 3-point shooter for about 4 years. They give him the ball in the
Yeah,
post
because he
sometimes.
was there the first
2015.
when
because Wiggins
when
was
they
never
lost,
there
when they
'Cause
first
Wiggins-
lost
Yeah.
to Golden State.
Yeah.
It's become kind of like Chris Bosh in Miami. We'll give you the ball in the post sometimes, but you're just gonna shoot threes.
You're gonna spread the floor for LeBron.
In this series, Tyronn Lue said, "You're Kevin Love. You're a great post player before shooter, and we're gonna feed you the ball.
You
and
used
you're
to
gonna
average
score."
basically 20 and 20 in Minnesota.
He
so
had
we're
he
going
had a
back
30
to
and
that.
30 game in Minnesota.
Yeah.
They played him through the post like Kevin Love is supposed to, and he feasted almost the entire series.
I think
I give credit to Tyronn Lue for saying, "Be Kevin Love," and we're not just gonna make you shoot threes.
I agree with that, and I also think not having Kyrie Irving and not having what they thought they were going to have in Isaiah Thomas plays a huge role. Now they have to
True.
rely heavily on Kevin Love to help LeBron get some production outside of himself. I mean, yeah, LeBron's going to kick it to JR and Kyle Korver and George Hill and all these guys on the perimeter, but they're not that star caliber player that Kevin Love or Kyrie or an Isaiah Thomas back when he was playing at that level are. So that's a great point. I mean, if Ty Lue really is the coach, we will never know probably until the LeBron documentary comes out. But hats off to him. Moving on, I want to talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. Joey's pride and joy. They fell behind in the series, down 3-0. They could have easily been up 2-1 heading into Game 4.
Yeah.
They did win Game 4, so it's a 3-1 series. Can the Philadelphia 76ers be the first team to come back from a 3-0 deficit? I say yes. I
What?
think they can be the
What?
first team. Here's my reasoning.
They barely won though Game 4. I mean, it was pretty good win,
Joey-
but it wasn't like
They had
no,
to
no,
get
no.
a career game from TJ McConnell to win that game.
That was
Hey,
a
he's
no.
a-
I think
he's a
that's
solid-
I think that's part of my key though here. I think that was a huge coaching move.
Putting him in the starting-
putting him in
yeah.
the starting lineup. Covington's been so streaky. McConnell gives you another ball handler, and McConnell can still stretch the floor and hit a 3-pointer.
I think McConnell's one of the most underrated
I
players
agree
in
with
the
you.
league.
He is.
And Boston, they don't have their stars. They are winning with young guys who will be prone to mistakes in big time moments. They're
But
rocking.
that's
with,
why they have
they're
Big Al
rocking.
Horford.
They're rocking with guys like Marcus Morris and Aaron Baines. You're gonna tell me Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, JJ Redick can't get hot for a couple games, push this thing to Game 7, and steal one in the Garden? Put me down as a believer for the process.
Wow.
I'm not saying they're winning the series, but I think they have a shot.
I don't see them coming back, and
You think it's over in Game 5?
I like the Sixers. I like the way they play.
Yeah, I mean, you picked the Pelicans Sixers NBA Finals.
Come on, man. We can all be hopeful. The Pelicans looked pretty good for a little while.
They're still alive. I mean,
They
as
looked
of
all
right
right.
now.
They still looked all right in the Warriors series, and then they fell apart in the other games. But I don't know. The Sixers, the Celtics play defense. That's the problem. So for all the Celtics have to do is get the Sixers out of rhythm for one more game. And I think that's too tall of a task for the Sixers team to overcome. And especially with Robert Covington being as streaky as he is, or as he has been, is a big troublesome sign because he was one of their more consistent guys throughout the season. So to have to do like a lineup change middle of the series is kind of tough. Obviously, like I said, I think McConnell is great. I think he's a good player, but you need those other guys that can actually score the ball more consistently to step up. And to have them do it for 3 more games seems very difficult, especially playing in the Garden. And the way that like Jason Tatum's been playing and Terry Rozier, Al Horford been finishing games pretty well. He hasn't like lit up the stat sheet, but you'll see in the fourth quarter that that's where he does most of his damage. And then just having Jaylen Brown healthy is like a big, big deal. Having one of their best defenders ready to go to stop one of those guys is tough. So I don't see the Sixers coming back,
Malik?
unfortunately.
Malik,
Yeah,
do you think they have a shot?
I agree with Joey.
Oh, come
I don't
on.
think they have.
You guys
shot,
are all
but
haters.
I think I'm gonna get to. I think it's important that they lose this series.
I've made some bold predictions
But-
out here. All right.
Brad Stevens is too good of a coach. Like he said, they play defense.
Another good point.
Once the
Yeah,
Sixers
that's
start missing shots, they make bad decisions. That game they lost in Philly like 4 days ago when they turned the ball over like 6 times in overtime, like the last few minutes of the fourth quarter. When they don't hit shots, they like from Brett Brown to the players, they start making bad decisions. But
You think Brett Brown's making some bad decisions?
he's getting thoroughly outcoached by Brad Stevens.
Well, Brad Stevens is another level of coach.
Also,
Brett
though,
Brown's one of my favorites.
Joel
young
Embiid
guys.
has looked very, very lethargic.
Subpar.
And just
Oh yeah.
He
not
even got taken out of the
involved.
game in Game 3.
Right.
in
He doesn't
overtime.
look like he wants
Yeah.
to be there, which doesn't make any sense.
But
I
that's-
think it's just he's tired.
That's the point I was gonna make. Kenny
Which is-
Smith said something on TNT. He said this summer, I hope the
I
Sixers
saw
lose
that,
the
yeah.
series. Yes, this summer will be the biggest summer in Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons' lives.
He wanted them to get swept.
Joel, yes, he wanted them to get swept. I just hope they lose. Joel Embiid getting in shape and Ben Simmons developing his offense this summer will be the biggest. Might be one of the two biggest things
Ben
of
Simmons
this
needs-
all season besides the free agents.
Yeah.
'Cause if they get better, if Ben Simmons gets a consistent jump shot and Joel Embiid gets in shape,
And possibly
it could
pulling,
be unbelievable.
pulling Markelle Fultz back into the mix. Which
And
he's-
Markelle
Dude looks
Fultz
trash.
coming
He's
in.
looked good at times.
trash.
He's looked good at times. If he can
He's
get
a draft bust.
if he
I
can
don't-
get
I'm not
himself
counting
under
him out yet.
yeah, with that size,
He to me is a prime candidate for these Sixers to trade him. He has value still, and if you're gonna play Ben Simmons at the point guard, why do you have Markelle Fultz?
because if you can move Ben Simmons off the point guard role, I think
He's that Magic Johnson type player though.
Exactly. That's what.
Why-
He's not developed enough on offense
Markelle
yet to just
Fultz-
throw him the ball.
and
but that's
Fultz-
what I'm saying. If he
Fultz
if he
isn't a
develops
sharpshooting
an
guy.
offensive game.
Fultz isn't a sharpshooting guy. He doesn't fit
and
the
it's
mold
crazy
of.
because that's what he was coming out of college.
Yeah,
he was a
and-
sharpshooter.
Well,
I
that's what
think
I'm
it's all
saying. If he
mental.
can get himself figured out,
I think they'll probably give it a year or two.
but that's what I'm saying. He's like potentially,
I think Fultz won't be in Philly.
but
in
that
4
goes
years.
that goes to the same thing as this offseason is really big for the Sixers.
I think Fultz's jumper is in his head. Even if he fixes
Yeah, I
his
agree.
form, I don't think it'll
He's
be
got
back.
the Andrew Luck
'Cause, yeah.
injury.
His Andrew. That's something completely different. yeah.
But yeah, so moving on, we're gonna go to the Western Conference here. Malik's own Donovan Mitchell, Utah Jazz.
I'm not gonna
Down-
show off. I'm
I-
not gonna.
He's not gonna show off.
No,
They're down
man.
because they're down 3-1.
Yeah,
That's why he's not gonna show off. No, but we have to give some mad props to Malik. He made a bold prediction here and a bold stand for Donovan Mitchell, saying he's gonna have one of the best playoffs since Michael.
I compared him to rookie Jordan.
You
That's
pa-
what I
yeah,
did.
you compared him to rookie Michael Jordan, and you know what? He looks like rookie Michael Jordan out there for that first round series. Not so much the second round series, but he's looked dynamite. Unfortunately, I think his season comes to an end tonight in Houston. They're down 3-1 in that series. It's really a bummer that the Ricky Rubio injury happened.
was
'Cause
gonna
I
say-
think that played a huge
Yeah,
role
that
in
is-
this not being a very competitive series.
He's a
Rubio versus Chris Paul would have been a really.
he's a
good
huge
matchup.
part of their offense.
Rubio is a huge part of this offense. He spreads the floor. I know he's not the best shooter, but he can knock
He's
down
improved.
a shot.
He's improved his shooting.
improved the jumper.
Dante Exum just doesn't play up to the level that Ricky Rubio does. They try to put Donovan at a point and share that duty with Joe Ingles, and there was just too many turnovers. It just wasn't working out. So they've went to Raul Neto playing some point guard. Their
And
third string.
Rubio has that penetration too, where he can
Yeah.
kind of just dish it over his head to Rudy
Yeah.
Gobert
And,
for
yeah,
some
here's the-
dunks.
Ricky Rubio is still an absolutely fantastic passer. He
Right.
is up there in the top 5 passers in the NBA. So don't sleep on Ricky Rubio. He's a good defender as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's long.
He's gritty.
He can move his feet. I think he would give Chris Paul a lot of issues. Yeah, I think if Rubio's there, this series goes 6 or 7. Unfortunately, I think it ends tonight. It would be a stunner if Utah pulls this one out.
Although the Jazz are going to lose this one, it's time that people start looking at Quinn Snyder as
Yeah,
Quinn Snyder and Brad
he's co-
Stevens.
yeah.
Yeah,
Are gonna
I
be-
agree with you completely.
What he's done to this Jazz team, and they're going to keep these players going into next year. The confidence that they're going to have going into next season, they could be a 50-win team.
Right.
They
They
could,
know that they
definitely.
can hang with these guys. Like
Exactly.
they just beat the Thunder, who are a big powerhouse early on in the season, obviously. But
Quinn Snyder, in my opinion, should be coach of the year.
yeah, I agree
he
with
should,
that.
yeah.
I think just the way he turned around this team and the way he developed his young guys. Yeah, I mean, it's not all the coach developing Donovan Mitchell, but it takes a solid coach to see the star potential in him and let him play his game. I don't think Donovan plays the same level of play if he drafted by Detroit because I
I
don't think Stan
think
gives
so
him.
either.
I don't think Stan gives him that role in the offense.
I also
Well, 'cause
think
we
Ricky
saw-
Rubio doesn't show the potential he's always had
'Cause we
unless he's under Quinn Snyder.
Because we saw the same thing with Stanley Johnson, where Stan Van Gundy was kind of like back and forth with what do we want to do with Stanley, and you think the same thing might have happened to Donovan Mitchell in Detroit. So
And then our last series, the Warriors and Joey's New Orleans Pelicans.
Man.
Joey, I'll let you lead this one off here. What's your going through your mind as you stare down a 3-1 deficit?
Joey, didn't you predict they would beat the Blazers in the first round?
yeah,
He did.
I still
He was-
have to give you credit.
Yeah,
for
no,
Yeah.
he
you couldn't have seen Mirotic and Drew Holiday coming like that.
no, I
You
didn't. I
couldn't
definitely
have.
didn't. So like I knew that this team was very molded well together, and I felt like they played well together. I didn't expect Drew Holiday to explode that much in the
Yeah.
first round. Obviously, I know he's a talented player, but for him to step up like that he did, was incredible.
I didn't think Mirotic was the missing piece either.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
felt
was
like
a
he
shock.
was. I liked him all season.
I thought it was a
But
bad
he's
move.
a good player.
I wish that I kept saying that I wish the Pistons would have had him, but they ended up not. But so the problem with the Pelicans in this series, and it's what me and Chris talked about it was 2 weeks ago, and it was before the series started. It was just like our preview of it. The problem with this is the matchups. I don't like the way the Pelicans were guarding the Warriors. Like game 1, they were hanging with them for like the first half. They had Mirotic guarding Kevin Durant. That is never going to work out.
Well, I think the part of the issue too is the Pelicans play that same style of offense that Golden State does. You cannot beat Golden State playing
Oh,
at Golden State's
can-
play.
you can
They
beat
they are
Golden
the
State
best
them,
at
yeah.
And
that.
you see in a lot of these games, like the Pelicans will be with them in the first half, and then in the second half, they'll just kind of run out of gas.
That's what I'm saying. You can't
And-
play the Warrior way.
And for some
Expect to
reason,
beat
like
'em.
I'm really surprised at how much in a lot of these games that Draymond Green has gotten into Anthony Davis's head. And it seems like he's actually stopping him at times. And
That's your defensive play of the year.
right, for me, I wish that I've seen it a couple times, Anthony Davis and Kevin Durant guarding each other.
Yeah,
That
more on
seems-
switches though.
That seems to make more sense to me. But I do like that they've done
I would hide Mirotic on Draymond Green, honestly.
right. That's what I thought they would do. And they haven't done that. And they started moving Drew Holiday onto or Kevin Durant a few times.
I
Which-
don't like that. Just
which
'cause
is
KD
it works, but obviously, like once KD gets a rhythm, he can shoot over him every time.
yeah, you put KD in that mid post.
He bothers him a little bit when he puts it on the floor, and it's looked good at times, like I said. But there's times too where,
If he gets it back to the basket mid
Right.
post, he just turns over his right shoulder and
Yeah.
it's a bucket.
and I don't know if you heard that after they lost, Draymond Green texted Kevin Durant at 4 a.m. and texted him saying, "Hey, I need you to step up. We need you. I don't like losing like this. I can't sleep like this." And KD woke up the next morning and responded, "I got you." And that's the game that he scored 38. So obviously, like,
that's a bad boy.
yeah. So it's cool that they're like that, and it's really hard for the Pelicans now that they've kind of gotten revitalized. So I think the Pelicans are going to lose. They're not going to get another game, I don't think.
You think both these series end tonight?
Yeah, man, as much as I want to see the Pelicans win, but the matchups are just too tough. And
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
they played it right early on in the series, and now they're kind of too late. So
I think we're gonna get a treat. I think this Western Conference Finals is gonna be absolutely
Oh, yeah.
fantastic. Houston
sure.
Rockets versus the Warriors. It's gonna be the Warriors' biggest test.
This will be the best series of the playoffs.
Oh,
maybe.
for sure. Yeah, I completely agree with
Easily.
you.
yeah,
Definitely because it's gonna be Cleveland Golden State for the 5th straight year or whatever, 4 straight years.
Actually, Cleveland Boston will be interesting, but Warriors.
If Boston beats
That's the heavyweight
Cleveland,
matchup. Cleveland Boston is kind of like the middleweight matchup.
Boston.
Yeah.
I think Boston matches up a little bit better for Cleveland.
no, but no Kyrie, no Gordon.
right.
How awesome would it have been if it was Kyrie versus LeBron for the title of Eastern
Yeah.
Conference?
That
That's
would've
the
been cool.
storyline I wanted.
Right.
I wouldn't be
Um,
surprised if all of a sudden Kyrie was 70%.
I
I
mean,
will play game one.
there's still like some rumbles that Gordon Hayward
Right.
could come back for spot minutes in the
But at
conference
that
finals.
at that point, I don't think you want to mess with the flow that
I
the
agree
Celtics
with you.
have right now.
I agree with you. I think you let these guys roll.
I don't.
just you-
The other thing I thought of too, like, you don't want it. Obviously, it's not going to happen. But if like the Celtics were to win the NBA championship with this team,
dude.
and you have Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward sitting on the bench, how bad would those two feel about it that they didn't get to be involved?
I don't
in
think
that
they would
whole-
feel bad, honestly.
I think
They
it,
still get
it
a
would be
ring.
more excitement of next year
Right.
We'll just see when we get incorporated, which it could mess up the flow, but
But
we'll
at the
see.
same time, I
No,
don't know.
I mean, Kawhi would feel happy going to the NBA champions.
Oh my god.
But before we go, we got 2 more minutes. I want to get your still updated opinions on what will happen. Are we still rocking with? I got Warriors, Cavs, NBA Finals, Warriors sweep. Joe,
I don't know. The way the Celtics are playing,
give me a bold take, Joe.
that's all I ever give. I still got the Pelicans and the Sixers,
You still have a chance.
technically, until tonight.
Yeah.
But man, and I don't like at this point I can't. It's hard to go against the Cavs because they keep somehow winning, and I hate it.
I need
But
decisiveness.
but I'm gonna go with the Warriors and the Celtics. I think the Celtics match up better with the Cavs with their young guys. They're longer. They can get out to those 3-point shooters that aren't. Maybe,
I think it would be more fun seeing Warriors Celtics,
yeah,
but yeah.
definitely. But if it comes down to being the Warriors and the Celtics, I don't know how you cannot say that the Warriors won't win.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I just think
Especially
it would be more fun.
with Steph coming back in his first game looking great
Yeah.
already. That's like a
I think
throwing-
Brad Stevens would do a better job of covering. I think
like
he would do a really good job
time to
strategically.
throw in the towel.
Malik, 1 more minute. What you got? You still what you rocking with?
Oh, it's Cavs Warriors again, but I think Warriors win in 6.
You think Cavs are going to win 2 games out here? I mean,
LeBron James is going to pull out 2 historic performances.
I can't knock you.
I
All right,
said
good take.
I said he'd have at least 2 40-point triple doubles in the Pacer series. He did it like 3 times. He can do it 2 times against the Warriors
Problem is the Pacers just have Victor Oladipo, but
and Lance Stevenson.
the Warriors, the Warriors have Kevin Durant, who is just as good of a scorer as LeBron James.
Yes.
So
That'll do it for our show. An exciting show here at ONTV.
we can finally sleep like Tom Gores.
Exactly.
Sleep like Tom Gores. A lot
Everything will
of
be
moving
all right.
pieces. And we will actually be talking about Pistons in the offseason because there's a lot of moving parts now. So it's exciting. Thank you, Malik Hill, once again, recurring guest on the show. Thank you for joining us to break down all things Pistons, NBA playoffs, and Donovan Mitchell.
Thanks. I love being here. Budenholzer guys shirts coming soon.
It's all in the store, guys. Get ready. Joey, I need some better takes next time, man.
What? My takes are falling apart. We're not in the college tournament anymore, so it's hard.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
See ya.